Welcome back to Car-Pinionated, our weekly show about cars, the car industry, and driving in general. I'm Doug Stewart, Senior Digital Content Producer at Fox 61 in Hartford. And joining me is Jeff Buckles, Editor and Writer for WBBM in Chicago, an automotive enthusiast, and Glenn Packman, who is from beautiful Fairfield County and an improv comedian and a car enthusiast as well. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Here we are being automotive media, and there are a lot of changes in the landscape of brands that had built up a long history of being out there and doing the work and doing a good job at it as well. And some of them are coming to an end, and some of them are seeing some major changes. I speak specifically of Autoblog, which I will be very sorry to see go. I have enjoyed Autoblog a great deal over the years, and it seems that they're being shut down. Um, and it's a sad thing. I think there was a lot of people who work there who've gone on to bigger and better things and think fondly of it. There have been changes in the YouTube space. Donut Media has lost a lot of people. Hooligan, and naming a couple other ones. Jeff, can you give us a kind of a thumbnail about what is going on in your view?
So Matt Hardigree, who's the publisher of The Autopian, which is one of the automotive websites that has launched in the last couple of years and is, by all accounts, doing reasonably well in the space, had a great accounting after the Donut Media thing about sort of the life cycle of these things, and it usually goes like the people create this website or this product, and it takes off, and people get excited about it. And then the owners of that thing, for whatever reason, for their own reasons, decide they don't want to work this hard anymore, and they decide to cash out. And what happens after they cash out is why we're where we are. What happens is they end up cashing out, usually to private equity, which attempts in its way to make more money with the same or less stuff. And that usually and what you also get is you get people who were kind of evangelists for the product and for the community are handing control over to people who are really interested in making the money, don't really understand what it was about the site that was special or that was compelling. And what ends up happening is the people try to scale it and in order to make more money, and that really doesn't work. Or the sort of famous pivot to video, which didn't really work. And so then what happens is they end up just kind of slashing a bunch of costs in order to make money and buy people off, and that's kind of where you are. In both of these cases, the parent company of the sites have sold to another company. And so a lot of the early adopters or whatever have left. I mean, and indeed, the Autopian is made up of people who were at another well-known site, Jalopnik, which has gone through its own sort of palace intrigue over the last few years or so. Also involving corporate overlords, private equity, scaling, consolidation, and that kind of thing. And it shows how really difficult it is to sustain a niche product like that. I mean, you see it too in the in the sort of the 20th century car magazine space. I mean, I don't know about you, but the last time I walked into like my neighborhood Walgreens, where I used to, when I was a kid or a teenager, I used to spend ages like reading car magazines in in the line at like Meyer or whatever. There you hardly see any anymore. Most of them
Mhm.
are owned by the same company now. I think
Right.
Car and Driver and Road and Trek are both Hearst magazines now.
I believe so. Yeah.
The Automobile is gone.
Mhm. Very sad.
And yeah, and so what you are left with is, and Motor Trend is still around, and they'll be around as long as they give out the Car of the Year award. But Motor Trend smartly has pivoted to video a little bit itself.
Mhm.
And they have a whole bunch of brands and so forth and shows that work for them, but it's really not the magazine anymore. It's a bunch of other stuff. um it is really hard to sustain that kind of energy, and particularly if you're trying to do it sort of the old-fashioned way, which is hire people, pay them to write stuff, buy ads around that stuff, because it's really hard to buy digital display. I mean, it's hard to sell them because nobody really wants to buy them. And
And
that's
you don't get
where,
you don't get any money.
right. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Mhm. I mean, this is our little corner of the automotive journalism market, and it takes commitment and it takes an emotional investment, right? This is something that's important to me. It's important to you guys, and I hope that that comes across to our viewers. But it's hard sometimes. It's hard, like, okay, we're sitting here on a Friday night and we've all had long work weeks and we're doing this, and those folks who like saw, we're doing stuff and for small companies and doing it because they really loved it and it worked out well and people were experiencing and enjoying it. Then somebody comes along at the top and says, well, why do you need to do that? Couldn't you do it cheaper? Why do you need five of those things? Can't you only do one? How many cameras do you need? Can't you shoot it on an iPhone? All that stuff. Like, I don't understand why we're spending all this money on editors. No, there's certainly a good reason to buy a good video, to have a good video editor. But anyway, Glenn, your thoughts on all this?
Well, before I say anything, you two are in media for a living, and I am most definitely not. I can give you the real estate point of view. This, maybe there are some similarities there in the way that the real estate market has changed in comparison to media approaches to automobiles. As someone who is a complete layperson, I have no expert opinion to really offer here. So, but I can tell you what just a complete layperson could say about all this. And for me, it's that the speed of change in media in the past 20 years has been just dizzying for me. Uh, I mean, I'm 62 and I'm still trying to get my mind around things like streaming. It's like, wait a minute, the TV networks are going away. Well, why? Why has Car and Driver become Car and Pamphlet? It's like
Yeah.
it's this big and it's all ads, and in my favorite magazine. Why is this happening? And it's because it's just the speed of change. Tastes change so quickly. There's so much information available to us on these tiny little screens that people are just glued to all the time, that it's no wonder that things need to constantly morph and constantly be fresh and constantly be new. And I think for me, that is where all of this is stemming out of, is that nothing stays fresh for very long. Uh, there's no longevity, it seems, anymore. Maybe it's not everything. It's not everything. I'm sure there are things that, stay current for a long time. There definitely in music, there are some that have been around for at
But but
least.
I but I think to your point, staying fresh, it's like you used to see there was a cycle to things, right? In the
Sure.
car industry, especially.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
September, they would introduce the new models, and we would all go down to Dealers Row and spend a couple hours wandering around seeing what was there. And
Right.
now those introductions take place over the whole year, right? Because they
Yeah.
need to fill that news gap, that news hole of, getting stuff out there and finding an audience for it. And, do you introduce the new Ford F-150 at the Texas State Fair, or do you wait till Chicago? Or how that all plays out, because they're fighting for attention. Everyone is fighting for attention. And then from the media standpoint, these are places that are making money, and that's what's attractive, but they're not making money because they were run cheaply,
Right.
and so it's a shame. I mean, Car and Driver used to be 12 issues a year, and now it's 9, 10, something like that.
Yeah, and I actually, my wonderful mother-in-law just bought me a Road and Track subscription, and in fact, they are only doing double issues. I think
Mm.
I think the deal is 6 issues a year, and they are about the size that Car and Driver used to be when I was, when I was getting it, like in the 90s and the aughts. But they're now double issues.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, the push for eyeballs is tough, man. And every other media field in America, in the world, is seeing the same kind of contraction and pressure for profit and everything else. And so, this world is kind of no different. And it is dealing with the same pressures, the creative pressures that every other medium is dealing with. Like, wouldn't it be easier if we had AI generate this story about this new car, or whatever. I mean, it's tough, and a salute to everybody that's still doing it. I became an Autopian subscriber or a member at the velour level. Thank you very much. Because I really believed in believe in the ethos of the site, and how inclusive it is, and how very transparent they are. And unlike my years and years as a Car and Driver subscriber, I've actually gotten to party with the Autopian founders at a house party in suburban Detroit, about which I'll share more maybe another time, once the clearances come back. But it's super hard, and hats off to Doug for this little corner of the internet, and to Tegna for letting him do it, and for bringing us together to talk about this thing, that one of the things that unites us, and that so many people find interesting and entertaining. And when you find that it's difficult, and sustaining it is, as you point out, incredibly hard. And if you want more proof of that, just take a look at the sort of dumpster fire Jalopnik is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. My daily list is, it's Jalopnik, and it's Autoblog, and it's the Haggerty page, and Utopian, and okay, once or twice a week I'll cruise through the Detroit papers to see what they have. But like things that I miss, like CNET used to have this great car coverage. It's just really, really good.
Yeah.
And I miss those guys. I got the chance to chat with Brian, blanking on his name right now, but at one of the auto shows.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And and it changes, all this stuff changes. Look at the rise of Jason Camisa and the stuff for Haggerty, and they're doing great work. Just phenomenal. If you want to see like 2 minutes of really great television, go to the Ferdinand PH episode.
Yeah.
Which is just like the opening 2 minutes, like my jaw was on the floor, and that sort of, but that sort of craftsmanship takes time. And in the Haggerty universe, that's, they have the insurance company is kind of they're the
Yes.
big thing, and then
They make lots of money insurance, charging too much for collector car insurance. Tiny story, maybe I've shared it on this blog before. McKeel Haggerty and I went to high school together.
yeah,
I
I
did
don't
not.
think you.
McKeel inherited his dad's insurance company in Traverse City, Michigan, and turned it into this juggernaut of collector car insurance. And good job on McKeel
Yeah.
for making it happen. McKeel was 2 years behind me at Traverse City High School. A good friend of mine, one of my early influences in journalism, actually worked for them for their marketing department for a very long time. And another high school classmate freelances as a photographer for them from time to time. I mean, they're the Haggerty edifice in Traverse City is really impressive.
Wow.
It is the house that everybody's Corvettes built. Everybody's Corvettes and Tri-5 Chevys and
Right.
Yeah.
32 Fords. But
Well,
he is
Wow.
passionate about it, and thank God he has the money and has figured out that the way to keep people engaged with the brand is to spend money on those kinds of things that would ordinarily go into a car magazine or something like that.
And they have run auto shows now.
They bought Radwood.
Yeah,
They own
and
Radwood, which is crazy.
Glenn and I went to Greenwich Concours, and they
Haggerty
did a
event.
nice job there. They did a really nice job.
Hey, if getting back to the media thing, one of the joys behind this when I stumbled across this great deal on the car we just bought, I really was not all that familiar with the Encore GX, and I wanted to, dive in and see what people were saying about it. I went to YouTube and I found literally dozens of people who had done their own reports on this car. And that's great because it's unfiltered. It's true opinions of people who are, and some of them were overwhelmed by it. Some people thought it was mediocre, and you take the good with the bad. But it's fun watching two ladies from Canada driving around a car and talking about the technicals better than I can, by a mile. It's great to hear about some guy who is a U.S. veteran recording something from his garage, and he did a whole rundown because he and his family just bought an Invista, and he was like, "I got to tell you about this car." That's the cool part, I think, for me.
When
That's what we're getting
back in the mid-aughts, I was moderating a panel discussion at a convention on the future of media, and this was right on the heels of Knight Ridder going out of business, and sort of the 90s wave of consolidation in media, and nobody really knew nobody really had a great digital strategy, and I remember despairing a lot at that time. And I talked to my boss at that station, who's one of the smartest people I've ever worked for. And I said, what makes you confident, or what makes you feel better about kind of the state of media and where we're headed? And he said, the advances in technology, and remember, this was in 2006. The advances in technology have democratized media to the point where literally anybody can be a journalist and anyone can tell a story. And I think that for every sort of established site like Donut or Jalopnik or Autoblog, you have all of these other people now who speak to specific communities about particular cars or car experiences that they have. And it isn't mass media so much anymore. Like it really is customized. And many smarter people than me have talked about sort of the what happens when you don't have shared experiences anymore with people. But I think if there's anything to take from any of this, it's that there are people who are finding their own voices and sharing those experiences in a way that a larger site can't really, or doesn't feel like it can, because there isn't the margin in it. And that is probably a good thing, a net positive, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, my first station I worked for, I was out talking with somebody, and said, well, it goes, how much does that camera cost? I said, well, the camera's 20,000, another $5,000 for the lens, $3,000 for the tripod, X, Y, and Z, and then you have two machines that are $20,000 a piece, and then you have to have the broadcast license, and it's all very narrow, and it's all just like at that point you either had the broadcast or you had the newspaper that was printed down the street, and now you can it comes out like it comes out, but you can do it with your phone. You can,
and it looks better. It looks better than the garbage you used to carry around on your shoulder. It often looks better than that.
Right. But yeah, it is the democratization, and that right there is a good thing. It has a downside, but I think on the it's much more a positive than anything else. And to to the point about the YouTube, like I learned how to replace the brake light on my Subaru Forester.
Yes.
In a 2-minute video that
space is crazy.
Yep.
It's so good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't know how this works. Wait a minute. I have the internet. I know how it works. Same exact thing. We had to replace a light bulb on our Pacifica, and this goes all the way back to 2006, and had no idea how to do that. And 10 minutes later, I knew how to do that. So, there's something there. Life is easier, but it's also harder because there's so much of it coming at us all the time.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Overwhelming.
I think that it's always tough to read stories about people who are losing their jobs or are caught in sort of a reorg and are sort of left without much of a safety net. And that happens a lot in the media, and it's in a lot of industries actually, and it sucks. There's just kind of no way around it. But if there is one private equity guy or hedge fund manager who can't take a vacation because they ran a car website into the ground, I also think that's a net positive.
And with that,
yep.
All right. Remember to like and subscribe. Car-Pinionated on YouTube. If you have that weird car that you like that no one else seems to care for, send me an email at dstewart@fox61.com. And guys, thank you so much for doing this. This is always fun. I do appreciate it. And we will see you next time.
Good night, Fairfield County, wherever you are.